And without further ado, here's Phil Rigdon to give the ITC President's Report.
Thank you, Kelly. And I also want to thank everybody here getting up this morning. We're on the last day of the symposium, and it's good to see people are here 8 o'clock sharp and ready to go again. And so, raise the mic. Okay, can you guys hear me now on the way back? Okay, so we have a full day this morning, or today, the whole day. Following my report, Dave Koch is going to give the acting chief forester's report, and then he will be followed by Mark and Matt's DC report. Then Fred Clark will be giving us an update from the Forest Service. After Fred, Billy Barquin will update us on the implementation of the 2012 Forest Service Forest Planning Rule. We then have a workshop, 3 workshops, carbon, sustaining our forest, and building our forest workforce. These all address important issues, and we urge you to attend your favorite and to engage in discussion. Our final business item of the day is the annual ITC business meeting at 5. The meeting is open to all, but please make sure your delegate attends to vote on the new board members, our officers, and the 2019 symposium location. This evening, we'll wind up with the annual awards banquet at 6:30, where we will honor those helping us move tribal forestry forward, and we will also distribute the raffle items. So continue to purchase raffle tickets and fill up the tubs, except the ones that I'm putting tickets in. Those are mine. So there's still plenty to do. And for me and your ITC officers, your board members, committee chairs, and participants, there's been plenty to do over the past year. The IFMAT IFMAT 3 report continues to be a principal spark and story that propels us forward. The importance of the report prompts us to share the message as broadly as possible. To that end, ITC and IFMAT team members have brought the issue of Indian forestry to new forums and personnel. We made a presentation to the Tribal Interior Budget Council, or TIBC, a group of tribal representatives and senior BIA and administration personnel that helped shape the upcoming year's BIA budget requests. They don't get many presentations in this forum, and we were lucky to have that opportunity. With the help of Ag Deputy Undersecretary Butch Blazer, who joined us here Tuesday. In December, we made an IFMAT presentation to Agriculture Undersecretary of Natural Resources Robert Bonney and other senior agriculture officials from a variety of agencies such as the Natural Resource Conservation Service and Rural Development. In March, the Intertribal Timber Council and the IFMAT team made a presentation to senior Interior Department personnel from Policy Management and Budget, which has overall responsibility for shaping the budget and policies of the department. The meeting also included people from the White House and Office of Management and Budget, OMB, who work on budget and policy issues at the national level. In the meeting, we were joined by elected tribal leaders and forestry representatives from Colville, Confederated Salish and Kootenai, Grand Portage, all of whom actively contributed to the discussion. We want to thank them for their time, effort, and support. They made the meeting much more effective. We also want to recognize and thank Tommy Thompson, Mike Black, Feline Haven, Dave Koch, and who worked hard with us and for us in setting up the meeting. It would not happen without them. And ITC and the BIA team is also pursuing implementation of IFMAT's recommendations within the agency, and we hope the Forest Service will be able to join us as well. All of these efforts are raising the awareness and profile of tribal forestry within the administration. Beyond the administration, Intertribal Timber Council partnered with Seattle University Law School to put on another symposium last October on the future of the Federal Tribal Trust with participation from tribal legal and federal fields. IFMAT 3, with a continuing concerns about BIs both administering and overseeing the trust management of Indian forestry, kind of the pitching and the umpiring scenario, provided a cornerstone for the gathering and its discussion. And the ITC is considering ideas on how to tell the story of tribal forestry to the national public. Our lessons, contributions, and success need to be heard. IFMAT 3 offers a springboard to get that started. Congress also remains interested in IFMAT 3 and the role and ideas of tribal forestry. In the spring of last year, both the House and Senate held hearings specifically on IFMAT 3. And this May, the Intertribal Timber Council testified before the House Natural Resource Committee hearing on forest management and wildfire. We also testified on the FY 2016 Interior Appropriations, and we have submitted testimony on tribal forestry and forestry issues to the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, Indian Affairs and Appropriations, and to the House Committee on Indian, Insular, and Alaska Native Affairs Subcommittee. We've also made a practice of visiting congressional offices whenever we're visiting D.C. All of this is beginning to bear fruit. I know it's a slow progress, but foresters are familiar with the patience. For years, for this year, FY 2015, Congress increased appropriations for the BI forestry budget by $1.8 million. And for fiscal year 2016, the administration is requesting an increase of $4.2 million. We are hopeful that Congress will look favorably on these requests. And just last week, the House Natural Resource Committee introduced a big forestry bill that included amendments to improve the implementation of the Tribal Forest Protection Act and a program for tribes to administer national forests and BLM lands near their reservation. Both of these ideas were developed and advanced by the Intertribal Timber Council. There is, of course, a long way for this legislation to go, but it's pleasing to see the progress made thus far, and Matt Hill will give some details during his presentation. In addition to IFMAT and its follow-up, the ITC continues to pursue on 3 other principal initiatives: strengthening the Tribal Forest Protection Act, the collaborative Anchor Forest pilot project, and the emerging issues of forestry workforce development. The Tribal Forest Protection Act seeks to give tribals priority providing forest health treatments, including commercial harvests on adjacent federal lands, but has not been widely used as we would like. The process of getting a TFPA project is very locally driven, and often the lack of information and understanding with the feds, such as the Forest Service, which tends to stifle projects. As Jim Peterson and Jim Erickson discussed on Tuesday, we are working with the Forest Service, tribes, and others to open that up. A couple years ago, the Forest Service joined us in a TFPA evaluation and report. More recently, they have significantly participated in the Tribal Forest Protection Act workshops in Albuquerque and Spokane, aiming at bringing parties together to learn about the program and to work through our differences. But both of those workshops are well attended, and we hope for productive follow-through. There was also language included in this year's appropriations report urging the Forest Service to make better use of Tribal Forest Protection Act. And as I mentioned earlier, last week TFPA amendments were introduced to make the act more effective. The collaborative Anchor Forest pilot project in Washington State and Idaho are steadily moving along. As Vinny Carrero reported Tuesday, it has been a lengthy process, but the learning curve has been steep, and we hope the projects can now make good progress. Based on these pilots so far, there have been expressions of similar interest in anchor forests in the Lake States and the Southwest. Also, over the past year, a new area of focus has emerged on forestry workforce development. Forest management requires trained personnel at all levels, from loggers to mill workers to foresters. The shortage of workers at any level can slow or halt forest management, and it is becoming apparent that these shortages are real and growing. Meanwhile, in today's mechanized world, the skills needed across the whole range of forestry activities are more complex. This challenge is not just affecting Indian country, but it's also the federal, state, and private forests are facing the similar crunch. Fixing it will take time and needs to be tackled at all levels: grade school, high school, college, and beyond, including the current workforce. The Wildland Fire Workshop on Monday touched on the subject, and today Don Matanik will be leading the full workshop on workforce development. ITC expects to increasingly focus on this in years ahead. Wildland fire continues, of course, as a central component of forestry these days, and ITC remains active with the Interior Department and a host of other stakeholders on this matter. Jim Erickson, our forest specialist, led a workshop here Monday where you got the latest directly from Jim Douglas, the Director of Interior's Office of Wildland Fire. Prior to Mr. Douglas heading to the Office of Wildland Fire Management, tribes struggled a bit with that office. And I'm pleased to say, since then, our relations have significantly improved. Mind you, it is still no walk through the gardens when we talk about these issues. The fact is, there simply isn't enough fire funding to go around, and Jim Douglas is in the unenviable position of having to constantly try to balance competing interests among Interior Department agencies. When we feel our toes are being walked on, we squawk, but Jim listens and tries to be responsive to us. For this year, FY 2015, the office initiated set-aside and fire preparedness of $9 million for tribal contract support and $6 million for workforce development. And in its fields budget, there's a set-aside of $10 million for tribal fields and health projects on non-reservation federal treaty rights lands. The ITC has consistently urged Congress to increase funds for wildland fire, and we also support the proposal that suppression costs over 70% of the 10-year average be funded out of the National Disaster Assistance Account. Given the light snowpack this year in the Northwest, we're hoping this is both needed and soon. In addition to the Interior's Office of Wildland Fire, ITC values and welcomes our other partners and colleagues in the line in the world of forestry. At the Agriculture Department, we want to recognize the steady support and participation of Deputy Undersecretary Butch Blazer, Forest Service Deputy Chief for State and Private Forest Jim Hubbard, along with Forest Management Director Brian Rice and the Office of Tribal Relations led by Fred Clark. Over on the state side, the National Association of State Foresters and the ITC keep up our communication and coordination through both organizations, leadership and committees. We are also expanding our relationship with college and university. The Confederate Salish and Kootenai College is a steady and important contributor to our board and committees and is a vital resource to Indian forestry overall. The University of Washington, Oregon State University, Northern Arizona University are all active in supporting Native American scholarships on forestry, and Yale will be holding a symposium on tribal forestry this upcoming October, hoping to build our relationship with all of these colleges. And then we have our ultimate partners, the BIA. Our thanks and appreciation goes out to the many, many BIA personnel whose dedication and effort on our behalf are second to none. In particular, we'd like to extend a thanks to Tommy Thompson, Mike Black, Feline Haven, Dave Koch, Mark Jackson, Aaron Baldwin, Mike Benedict, for their enormous contributions. I do want to make a point, this is the ITC and the BIA, the tribes and the BIA came together. Our organization, we are together in this, and we want to make sure we recognize the effort put forward by the Bureau. On the tribal side, we actively collaborate with the National Congress of American Indians and its offshoot, our Natural Resources, ONR, Honor. Beyond the organization, of course, there are you, the tribes yourself. We thank you for your membership, participation, and support. Your contributions are often extraordinary, especially from those from your tribes that serve on our board and committees. This organization, your organization, works daily to honor the commitments and advance our interests. As president, I want to directly express our appreciation to those ITC personnel who make this a reality of our program manager, Laura, our program assistant, Monica. You see them helping us stay in control. Don Moe, Don Matanik here is our Intertribal Timber Council technical specialist, who also serves as our unofficial ambassador, manning many of the ITC booths at SAF, ACES, and last year the International Union of Forest Research Organizations. On the behalf of all of us ITC wants to say thank you to Coquille tribe as our gracious and welcoming hosts this year. They have put together an engaging and entertaining program in this beautiful part of the world. And we also want to say hello to the Coquille tribe's executive director, George Smith. It's a little known fact, back when I was a kid, probably watching Star Wars, he was the forest chief, or chief forester for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so he's been around for a long time, and I know his heart is still in forestry. And so also I want to mention that next year we'll be going to San Carlos and with Dee and Kelly and all the folks there, and I know that's going to be a great trip, so make sure you look. Next April is when the symposium will likely be, and it'll be an exciting time. So everybody, thank you for coming. We hope the past few days and the rest of today have given you a chance to think about and discuss this year's theme, a vision of the future, and that it provides some context and inspiration for your forestry program back home and through our work throughout Indian country. And thank you again.